All right, so we're starting off today with a warm-up. This warm-up is going to get us some refreshers for what we're going to be seeing in today's lesson. Okay, but if you remember, we did a huge unit with exponents, right? Remember we had, power raised to a power. We had bases with exponents being multiplied, and we even divided bases with exponents, okay? But remember the rule here. So I have, here I have a coefficient, which I'm just going to square. And here I have a base with an exponent being raised to a power. Okay, and I call that a power to a power. So what do? Do we raise the 4 to the second power? Do we multiply the 4 and the 2? Do we add the 4 and the 2? Or do we subtract the 4 and the 2? Okay, so remember what this means is that we have 2 of these. That's all that means. Okay, and then this means multiply. So 3 times 3 is 9. And then I've got 4 x's. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I have 4 x's here. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So instead of 9x times x times x times whatever, we can write this as 9x to the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 9x to the 8th power. Okay, so what do we do with 4 and the 2? Instead of having to write it all out like this? Yeah, multiply. 4 times 2 is 8. So let's use that rule on number 2. So don't forget you have to square the 2. So this 2 affects that 2. So I end up with 2 squared. And then this is, you keep the base. Remember the rule, keep the base and multiply 5 times 2. So when I simplify, I end up with 4y to the 10th. Okay, so think about number 3. Think about mentally if you can just go ahead and write the answer down. Okay, follow the same rule. So here we square the 7, and then we keep the base and multiply this 3 times 2. Multiply the exponents. 7 squared is 49, not 14. And then we get x to the 6. Okay? So I just wanted you guys to see this because we're going to be doing a difference of 2 squares today, but we're going to be doing it with higher powers. Okay? So, if you have a 4th power and you square it, you have 9x to the 8th. So 9x to the 8th is actually a square. This is a square. So is 4y to the 10th, because look what we did. We squared 2y to the 5th. So of course this is a square. Every one of these answers is considered a square. Okay, so we're going to look here at this dots part 2. And we got a little funny meme here. Right? Are you sure I make a difference? Well, how do you say subtract in math? You say difference. And then he says I'm positive. Okay, so the what, why, and how. Okay, we will learn how to factor a difference of 2 squares with higher powers. We're talking about exponents. Why? We'll be able to factor using a shortcut. How do we know if we've accomplished today's what? Well, given a difference of 2 squares, we will be able to factor it using the shortcut. And this is the style of factoring that we're going to see here. So notice here we have a 4th power. Notice here we have a 2. 4 and 9 are squares. So this is a square and so is this. Okay, so one thing I wanted you guys to consider is that any even number exponent, any even number power is considered a square. All right, so like x to the 8th, that's a square. X to the 4th y squared, that's a square because they're both even. Y to the 20th is a square. A to the 14th, these are all squares because what would I square to get x to the 8th? I would square x to the 4th. What would I square here? It would be x squared y. Here I would square, excuse me, I would square y to the 10th. Here I would square y to the 7th. Here I would square x to the 4th, y squared, z cubed. So these are all considered squares. So we can put those as the term in the binomial for a difference of two squares. Okay, so these are all squares. Kind of like you guys, right? Okay, we can use this information when factoring difference of two squares. Okay, so let's say this was the example on the what, why, and how. Okay, so that's even. That's even. So as long as we have even powers, our bases with exponents, our variables are considered squares. Now we got to look at these numbers. So 4 and 9 are both squares. So yes, this is a difference of two squares. Okay, and what is it that we're squaring? Because we need to know like what we can put in each of these for each term here. So what are we squaring here? What would we square to get 4x to the 4th? Well, we would square 2x squared. What would we square to get 9y squared? Well, we would square 3y because 3 squared is 9, and then y to the second power is y squared. 2 squared is 4, and then x squared to the second power is x to the 4th. So I have 2x squared and 2x squared, and I have 3y and 3y. Perfect. So that would be the factored version of it. Just like what we did before. Just have a little bit higher of powers and numbers. And if you notice, all we do is just divide each of these by 2. So divide this by 2, you get 1. Divide this by 2, and you get 2. And then we square root our 4 and the 9. Square root of 4 is 2. Square root of 9 is 3. Okay, so let's look at some more examples. So we have 4x to the 6 minus 25. 4 is a square, and so is 25. This is a square because it's even, because we can cut it in half, because that's what can be what we do. Okay, so we got to think about what goes in each of these for each of these values. Okay, and to do that, I mean, you could use mental math here, but I'm going to show you. So what do you square to get this term? And what do you square to get this term? Okay, I would square 2x cubed to get 4x to the 6th. And I would square 5 to get 25. Right? So what do? We square root this. We cut this in half. So I have 2x cubed, and then I have 5. And that would be the factored version of this binomial, this difference of two squares binomial. Okay? So even number, even number. So these are squares. And then we have 16, and 16 is a square. Okay, and there's a minus sign. So yeah, this is a dots style of factoring. So we can use the shortcut. Okay, see if you can think about what this term is going to be, or these two terms. And then what are we going to put here? So what are we squaring to get each of these? Should be x to the 4th. And then this right here should be 4y squared. Right, cut this in half, cut that in half. There it is, 2, there's 4. And then square root of 16 is 4. So we get x to the 4th plus 4y squared times x to the 4th minus 4y squared. Okay, and when you're doing these problems, I'm not saying you have to write these down. You don't have to write this step down. This is just what you should think. in your head. So you should be going, okay, these two numbers, when you multiply this out, these two are going to multiply to get the first term. So x to the fourth times x to the fourth is x to the eighth, because you add them when you're multiplying. And then the middle terms will cancel, so all we care about is the last one. So 4y squared times negative 4y squared is negative 16y to the fourth. So that works. Just like this. This is going to give me this 4x to the sixth, and then this is going to give me the minus 25. Okay, so let's look here. So what two numbers, or which two terms, what can I multiply to itself to get 9x squared? Well, 3 times 3 is 9, and then x to the fifth times x to the fifth is x to the 10th. And then over here, what am I going to multiply to itself to get 4y squared? Well, 2 times 2 is 4, and then y times y is y squared. That's why we have 3x to the fifth and 2y. Okay? Those were some good examples here. So why don't you guys try these? Right or wrong, just put in some effort, pause the video, write down what you think the answers are. Okay, this is really what I'm going to look at when looking at your notes. Okay, so what is it that we are squaring? We're squaring x to the sixth. What are we squaring? We're squaring 1. So we should have x to the sixth plus 1, x to the sixth minus 1. Okay, same thing here. Let's look here. So we want two numbers that are the same to get 9x to the 8th. Well, 3 times 3 makes 9. X to the 4th times x to the 4th. So we should have 3x to the 4th. And then 8 times 8 makes 64, and y times y makes y squared. So that's why we have 3x to the 4th plus 8y and 3x to the 4th minus 8y. Okay, last one. So 2 times 2 makes 4, and x squared times x squared makes x to the 4th. So I got 2x squared. And then 9 times 9 is going to give me 81, and y cubed and y cubed. So I have 2x squared, and I have 9y to the third. So 2x squared plus 9y cubed, 2x squared minus 9y cubed. Okay, so hopefully you guys were able to get those answers. It's pretty straightforward. And thanks for watching.